Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast. I'm Dr. John, and today's episode could save your independence. Because if you're over 60, your bones are weakening faster than you think, and the odds are quietly turning against you. 1 in 2 women over 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis. For men, it's 1 in 4, and after a hip fracture, nearly 30% don't survive the year. We're talking about bone loss, silent, invisible, and often the first symptom is a life-changing injury. But what if 5 minutes a day, just 5 minutes, could change that? No pills, no machines, just you and your body. And to explain how, we're joined once again by Japan's oldest practicing physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. Over 100 years old, still walking, still working, and still helping patients reverse what most believe is permanent. Dr. Hinohara, welcome back.
Thank you, John. And like always, I'm happy to be here, especially when we're speaking about something this personal, this powerful, because losing bone strength doesn't start with the fracture. It starts when we stop moving with purpose, when we sit too long, bend too little, forget the small signals the body sends, and over time, the structure that holds us up begins to let us down. But here's the truth. It doesn't have to. I've seen 70-year-olds regain balance. I've seen 80-year-olds reverse bone loss. I've seen 90-year-olds stand taller, without medication, without machines. What changed was not their age. It was their attention. 5 minutes a day. That's where it begins. And before we begin, I'd like to ask something to everyone who is listening right now. When was the last time you felt truly stable in your own body? Was it last week? 10 years ago? Maybe you're still waiting. Wherever you are, I'd love for you to share that in the comments. Because the journey back starts with noticing where you are today.
That's such a powerful way to frame it. Not as decline, but disconnection. That the bones don't just break. They break down when we stop communicating with them. And as you ask that question, when was the last time you felt truly stable? I started thinking about some of my own patients. A woman in her 70s who once told me, "I used to be taller." And she didn't just mean physically. She meant in spirit. A man in his late 60s who stopped taking stairs not because he fell, but because his knees felt unsure. There hadn't been an injury, just a quiet fear creeping in, that shrinking, that hesitation, the sense that fragility was setting in. So let's talk about how to turn that around. If someone is over 60, maybe already dealing with stiffness, maybe already noticing their posture change when they pass a mirror, where do they begin? What does day one look like if they want to rebuild from the inside out?
They begin by understanding what their body is still capable of, because that belief, that possibility, is where the real work begins. Bones may feel silent, hidden, hard, but they are not static. They're alive, responsive, constantly adapting to the signals we send.
So you're saying bones aren't fixed, they're changing all the time?
Exactly. Most people think bones are like stone. They just wear down over time. But that's not true. Inside every bone are tiny builders and demolishers, osteoblasts and osteoclasts. One group breaks down old tissue. The other builds it back stronger. And here's the key. They never stop working. Even in your 70s. Even in your 90s. But they need a reason. They need input. They need motion.
That's so different from how we usually talk about aging bones. We use words like brittle, fragile, declining, as if they're already gone.
And I've always found that tragic, because it makes people give up too early. Yes, we lose density over time. That's natural. But density isn't destiny. What matters more is what you do with the density you have. and how you stimulate new growth.
So the body's always listening?
Yes, always. The question is, what are we telling it? And too often, the message is, you're not needed anymore. We stop bending when our knees ache. We stop reaching when our back tightens. We stop walking when we feel unsteady. But the bones interpret that as silence.
And silence means deterioration?
Exactly. Bones need conversation. Not shouting, not aggressive workouts. Just gentle, consistent movement. That's how they know they're still part of the story.
That gives me chills. Because I think so many people listening right now have stopped moving. Not because they don't want to, but because they're afraid.
And I understand that fear. I've seen it. But the solution isn't to stay still. It's to move safely, slowly, intentionally. Because when you move wisely, even a few minutes a day, the body responds. I've seen people who hadn't stood tall in years regain inches in posture. Not because they grew, but because they remembered.
Okay, wait. Remembered what exactly? How to stand.
Yes, and how to move, how to align, how to breathe, and most of all, how to trust their body again. That's what we're really rebuilding. Not just bone, but belief.
So once someone understands that their bones are still listening, still capable of change, what's the next step? What does that look like in real life? What are we actually asking the body to do?
We're asking it to reconnect. And we begin with the simplest foundation. Posture. Not posture as in sit up straight, like a school teacher might say, but posture as in alignment. Presence. Gravity flowing through you instead of collapsing on you. And for that, we use something that's always available. A wall, no mats, no mirrors, just you and a vertical surface to reflect your position.
But again, and I want to be really clear for our listeners, this isn't something they should jump up and try right now, right?
Correct. Please don't rush. This is not a challenge. This is not a test. It's an introduction. I want people to understand what's possible, not feel pressure to perform. In fact, when I first teach this to my patients, I tell them, don't expect to get it right. Expect to feel something new. Because often, it's the awareness that matters more than the movement itself.
So can you walk us through what this might look like? Just the idea, so people can picture it.
Absolutely. Imagine standing gently with your back to a wall, your heels close, but not straining, your shoulder blades touching or gently moving toward contact, the back of your head resting against the surface, if that's available. If it's not, no problem. Just noticing that distance is part of the practice. Then 2 slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. As you exhale, feel gravity settle. Feel your spine remember its line. No pulling, no fixing, just presence.
And what's happening inside the body during that?
A lot more than people realize. Small postural muscles begin to activate, especially those along the spine and deep core. These are the stabilizers that quietly keep us upright. And when they turn on even for a few minutes, they send a powerful message to the bones. You are needed here. That's the signal we're after. Not strain, not soreness. Just that quiet awakening.
That makes so much sense. And honestly, it changes how I think about strength. Because when we hear bone health, most people picture calcium supplements or weight machines, not quiet moments at the wall. But what you're describing feels more intelligent, more human. I've had patients who dreaded exercise because they thought it had to hurt to help. But this feels like an invitation, something gentle enough to try, yet powerful enough to matter. So what happens next? Once someone finds that posture, that line against the wall, what's the next step in this 5-minute routine?
Once they find that line, even just for a few seconds, We begin to layer in small, controlled motion. Nothing extreme, just raising the arms slowly while maintaining contact with the wall. I call it the snow angel motion. Elbows bent, hands sliding up and down the wall in a goalpost shape. It may sound simple, but this activates a chain of postural muscles. The scapula stabilizes, thoracic extensors, even deep core engagement. And it's this chain, when used consistently, that reduces fall risk and restores upright posture.
That's incredible. And just to ground this in science, is there data that supports these kinds of subtle alignment-focused movements?
Yes, and it's growing. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Geriatric Physical Therapy found that targeted postural exercises improved spinal curvature and balance in women over 65 with osteopenia. Another study from Osteoporosis International showed that gentle, weight-free resistance training, including wall exercises, increased bone density at the spine and hip when done consistently over 12 months. What's important here is consistency, not intensity. 5 minutes a day sends a stronger signal than 1 hour a week of strain, because the bones don't respond to force. They respond to rhythm. They respond to reliability.
That last line, that the bones respond to rhythm, not force, that's going to stick with me. And I think for so many people listening right now, that idea alone might be the shift they need, because it means they haven't missed their chance. It means their body is still listening.
It is. The body always listens. Even when we stop using it the way we used to, it still listens. And the beauty of this work is that it's accumulative. You don't need to see results on day one. That's not how the body works. Day one might just be about noticing how it feels to stand with alignment, to breathe with awareness. But within days, things begin to shift. Movements feel smoother. The spine feels more supported. The body starts to trust itself again. And that trust sends a signal deep inside, even to your bones. Because osteoporosis isn't just about calcium loss, it's about communication loss. Bones are living tissue, and they remodel constantly using a process called mechanotransduction, meaning they respond to mechanical signals, pressure, alignment, weight-bearing movement.
So what actually happens when those signals stop? When someone spends most of their day sitting, barely moving, maybe avoiding motion out of fear or habit? What's going on inside the bones during all that inactivity?
The building slows down. The breakdown speeds up. And over time, you lose density. That's what osteoporosis really is. A silent imbalance between what's being taken away and what's being rebuilt. But the good news is that even gentle, consistent movements, like the ones we've been discussing, can shift that balance. Studies in Osteoporosis International and the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research have shown that postural training and low-impact resistance exercises can increase bone mineral density in older adults. Not just maintain, increase.
That's powerful. And I think people need to hear that their bones can still grow, still respond, still rebuild.
Exactly. And I've seen it happen. One of my patients, Mr. Fujita, 79, came in with a mild stoop. He said, "I always feel like I'm leaning forward." After 3 weeks of this simple routine, he told me, "My balance feels automatic again." He stood straighter, walked steadier, not because he pushed harder, but because his body finally got the right signal.
That's the real gift, not just stronger bones, but restored confidence in how you move through the world. And that's what really stays with me from today's conversation, that this isn't about chasing youth. It's not about doing more. It's about doing right, sending the right signals, gently, consistently, until your body remembers how to hold you. because 5 minutes a day might not sound like much. But after hearing what we've covered, the science, the stories, the way the body still listens even after decades of silence, 5 minutes starts to feel like a lifeline. Dr. Hinohara, as always, I want to thank you for the wisdom and the clarity. Before we go, if you had one message to leave our listeners with, what would it be?
Move gently every day, not because you are fragile, but because you are still alive.
Remember that everyone, you are still alive and we are proud of you. If you loved this episode, please leave a like and let us know whether you have any questions. We appreciate all of you. And for the people here in the studio, thanks again. This show wouldn't exist without your support. See you next time.